Welcome everyone to another edition of Play It Through, and on this edition it's Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, brought to us by Taito. This version of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade was released in 1991. It's not to be confused with the version from Ubisoft from 1993. However, that version was actually based on a 1989 computer version of the game, but this one is unique to the NES. It's the only system it appeared on and only appeared in North America. The way that the game handles its design is a little bit interesting. Instead of just being linear from level to level, instead you get to choose which level you want to take on next. However, if you wait to take on a level, when you finally get to it, it's actually more difficult. You also can lose the opportunity to do certain levels if you wait too long to complete them, thus making the game unable to be finished. So because of this, you still have basically an order that you have to complete them in. Your first choice, though, is to go either after the Cross or go to Venice. Now, the Cross level, if you go to it the first time, will have you having to defeat 15 enemies. However, if you go the second time, you actually have to defeat 30 enemies. The other level of going to Venice has you putting together a sliding puzzle, which I'm not a big fan of. And I'd rather get that done first and make that the easiest version of the sliding puzzle possible. So I usually choose to go to Venice first, but that'll be up to you to decide if you want to go with each one. Also, based on the order you do the levels and their difficulty changing up, this also ends up changing up some of the paths that are potential to take. For example, the level we'll be doing later on, the castle, the maze elements of it get harder the longer you take to actually complete it, and because of this, the run I will do will be maybe slightly different from the one you end up doing if you don't select the levels in the same order. Here we have the Holy Grail that we have to assemble a picture of that we'll actually be using later on. It's a little bit difficult at first to kind of get the hang of it. I'm not the best at sliding puzzles, so I'm sure I'm not doing it the fastest method here. However, you have a time limit at the bottom of the screen, and if you fail, it is game over. There's no extra lives in this game for the most part. If you fail, it is game over. The only real exception is you can get captured in the castle level, which ends up leading to an extra level on a motorcycle, which I won't be completing due to you have to basically lose in order to get that stage, but I will be completing the rest of them here. While I make some mistakes, eventually I get the puzzle put together. The level doesn't automatically finish once you have the Grail in place, which is a bit annoying. Instead, once you get the picture perfect, you then press the select button in order to finish up the stage. After the cutscene ends up playing out, you then get the choice of 3 levels, either to go find Marcus, rescue your dad, or go for the Cross. This is the point where we're now going to go to the Cross and go ahead and grab that. Now, for this level, you're on a ship, and you have to defeat a certain number of enemies. Since we're doing this the second time around, we have to defeat 30 enemies instead of the first time being 15, though it's still relatively easy. The combat is not good in this game, though. Not good in the least. You have a punch and a kick. However, if you press select, you'll be able to use the whip, and then the other button will still be your kick. In order to jump, you actually press A and B together. The whip is an instant kill, though, and if you time it right, you'll be able to take out most enemies with this. Basically, enemies just keep spawning once you take them out during the course of this level from one of many different doors, depending upon what level or what area you're in. So if you defeat an enemy like the one down here, the next enemy will spawn right from the door to the left of me. What makes this more difficult than it needs to be is the whole kind of sea thing going on with the boat rocking up and down, and because of this the camera gets out of the way at times, making it difficult to actually see the enemies when they end up appearing. If you're standing there and no enemy ends up appearing, then continue along the level. You're slowly working your way over to the left, because eventually when we do defeat all the enemies, the boss of the stage will appear on the far left side of the boat. The timing is very precise with the whip. It took me a while to kind of get it down to at least somewhat of a pattern, but I can still end up making a mistake. If you miss the whip, be prepared to mash the kick button. I found that mashing it as fast as possible, as well as sometimes moving towards the enemy, will end up helping you while you do so, but there's still no guaranteed way to succeed in the fighting. Sometimes the enemy will get the best of you, delivering uppercuts and knocking you down. The grails at the top of the screen do represent your life counter, though, so like if you end up running out of all your health, you do end up losing one of the grails, and basically works as lives. After this enemy is a particular pain, I only have a couple left. Now the thing is though, once you've defeated 30 enemies, the enemies don't all of a sudden stop. They will keep spawning, which is also pretty annoying. So basically I'll defeat the one here, but I still have to climb the ladder over to the right and get up here and take out this last guy. By doing so though, the boss will end up appearing. The boss will take a single shot though when he does appear, so once he does, hit him with a whip and then grab the cross that he drops and finish up the stage. After the scene, we then get our next choice. We can either go after the Grail, which we're unable to do so because we don't have the right information yet, or we can still go after Marcus or save Dad. This time now we're going to the castle and try to save Dad. This level is a pretty complicated pain-in-the-butt maze kind of stage, and since depending upon what order you do the levels in, it can be harder or easier. This is the medium path through the castle, the secondary path, so if you're playing this level second, aka your second time that you were able to select this level, this is the path that you'll need to take in order to get through it. You'll have to find a hidden wall by hitting this light switch, which will open it up and allowing you to continue on the level. You can double tap the left or right button in order to dash in that direction, which will help speed things up a little bit. Heading down here, be careful, and as soon as you enter in, whip. Like as soon as you go into the transition, whip, that way you're able to hit this one guy. Also, if you wait a few seconds, the guy who's down here may end up being too far to the left or won't appear at all. Hit the switch in order to pull up the hidden wall, and as soon as you appear in this room, you're going to get attacked. This guy always seems to do a decent amount of damage to me, but thankfully that's the end of the stage. Once he's defeated, you actually have to sit in the chair by pressing down on it, which will free up the fireplace, allowing you to find your dad. We now have only two choices left, either saving Marcus or going after the Grail, so we're going to go and now save Marcus. This is a battle on the tank, so kind of a cool thing with the movie and all that kind of stuff. Basically, you just have to defeat a certain number of Nazis here, but it's very easy, and the reason why is, once you're able to get to the right side, the enemies always have to drop off the left side of the tank itself. So because of this, you can just hang out on the right side, hit the left button on the D-pad to keep yourself on the tread of the tank, and then just keep on whipping as soon as they end up landing. After you go through a series of enemies though, the boss Nazi guy will end up making his appearance. But once again, it's either a very easy fight where you can whip him, or a lot of times I've noticed for some reason he ends up committing suicide. Just stand here, don't go after him. He'll just sometimes run and jump off the tank. Keep in mind, you do have a time limit with the tank part. If the tank at the bottom of the screen reaches the end of the cliff, you will end up getting a game over that way. Once that level is complete though, we only have one choice left, and that's to go after the Grail, and that's broken up into two different parts, with the first part being the whole Jehova floor tile thing. The path that you're going to take during this is different depending upon the order of the levels, and just overall maybe just be random in a lot of ways. But the way that you want to make sure that you progress through it is just knowing to spell the word Jehova and then just follow the letters that way. You have a limited amount of time to do this though, because your torch ends up going out, making it harder to see the letters. If you step on a wrong letter, the ground breaks and you fall through and it's game over, and you have to start the game over from the very beginning. This part is extremely obnoxious, and since the path changes up a bunch, it can be difficult. The path I get is not going to be possibly the same one that you're going to end up seeing, so just keep that in mind and just follow the correct letters, slowly making your way through it. When you make it to the end, make sure you paid attention at the beginning of the level to what symbol was above the page that we were looking at. Because of this, you have to leap off of the stage itself at the correct spot. Once you do make it to the end of the stage, you'll be able to walk safely along the front parts where all the symbols are. So find the symbol, in this case the bat-looking symbol, and we're going to use that to jump up and then jump up into the cliff, which completes the level, leading to the end of the game where we have to select the Holy Grail. This is much more difficult than the Ubisoft version of this game. Make sure that you pay attention to the picture of the Grail. You can look at it for as long as you want, but you can't pull it back up. Things to look for are the handles to it, and then the base itself. Is it rounded at the top, at the bottom? Those things are going to be key to kind of memorizing what you need to look at in order to then find the correct Grail. This changes up where it's going to be each time that you end up playing, so you kind of have to just wing it and make sure that you're able to memorize it. Nowadays, you can take a picture of it, I guess. Either way, scroll on over until eventually, looking at them, you'll find it. For this case, this is the one that we need. Select it, and you get the brief ending to Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. So there you have it, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Now, if you select the wrong Grail, all you get is you chose poorly, and then it goes back to the title screen, starting the game over again. So either way, you still kind of complete the game. The only thing is, you don't get to see this wonderful, glorious ending of Indiana Jones in the sky here. What an ending that truly ends up being. But there you go, that is Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, the Taito version for the NES. I'd like to thank you for watching, and of course, I hope you enjoyed.